Hello and welcome to the Schooner Pod, where today we are here to discuss the Oklahoma Sooners season opening 73-0 drubbing the Arkansas State Red Wolves. I'm Bobby Howard, joined as always by the Doctor, Jameson Maxwell, and the Titan of Takes, Mr. Ty Lee. Look, before we get started,
I wasn't ready for that, but okay.
The Titan of Takes. I'm going to give him a nickname on this one because why not? But a happy Labor Day to all of y'all joining us live on YouTube, and a sincere thank you for joining us. Feel free to get those questions going in the comments. We'll be sure to answer them throughout the show. And again, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're joining us the next day via your favorite podcasting app, hey, welcome to the show is all. But look, let's get rid of the formalities and talk some football. Jameson, how great was that win? And how much can we take from it? I know Arkansas State, not very good, but 73-0, that has to stand for something.
I think you can take a decent amount from it. Obviously, we're coming off a losing season, and coming out and doing everything that we are supposed to do in this game that's all you can ask for. People are going to try to scrape and try to find weaknesses and improvements from this game. Really, when it comes down to it, there's really not going to be much. And yeah, might be because of Arkansas State, but also we played really well. So we got to give it up to ourselves for
that. Ty, what are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, this game was exactly what we sort of hoped to see when we discussed it last week going into the pregame pod. We wanted to see a game that was essentially, no disrespect to Arkansas State, but a practice situation. And we'll dive into, what we liked, but yeah, maybe not 100% indicative of results to come, but look around college football. A lot of other teams put up some absolute stinkers against teams that they should have handled pretty handily. Yeah, Texas versus Rice. They won that game. They won it by double digits, but that's not, what a lot of people were expecting. We'll dive into stuff like Texas and everything else, I think, Wednesday when we get into our picks. But yeah, we did an excellent job. We shut a team out. There's maybe some things to pick at here and there. We saw that we have a firm quarterback one, and we really there wasn't anything extremely silly, and I was very happy with the product that we put out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah. I feel like the biggest thing is a lot of people are like, well, last year OU looked great. Everyone was so excited. The hype was off like through the roof after those first three games. But if you really look at the details beyond the wins, beyond, between the margins, the performance wasn't like this. 73 points is a crazy amount for any ball game. Shutting them out, another whole thing. If you look at the OU teams since Bob Stoops arrived in Norman, this is, I believe, the third highest scoring total the Sooners have put out, behind North Texas in 2007. And I believe, obviously, the 77-0 beatdown of the Aggies that everyone talks about and, it holds near and dear to our heart. It was a complete performance in a game that, never was going to be in doubt. But the fact that they showed up and just absolutely stomped Arkansas State, I think that has to make you feel a little bit happy. We're not going to win. It shouldn't make you feel like, oh, this team's going to make the playoff. It changes everything. But the fact that they came in, took care of business, and looked that good, that's encouraging.
The thing is, I asked y'all on the pod last week, what would make you happy in terms of the defense and how many points would be allowed? And for the most part, we weren't thinking shutouts at that time. We were kind of hedging in our brain. I think Ty, you said 14. Bobby, I think you said 10 with a garbage time touchdown. 0 points. No matter how bad the Arkansas State team looked, just feels so good that our defense, even though there were some things that you really, like I said, you could scrape at, was honestly really, really appealing to see a 0 on that scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, flat out shutout. That feels good. That always feels good regardless of the opponent. And then obviously dropping 73, pretty big as well. I mean, BYU got a shutout, but it was 14 points. That obviously isn't the same. Anyways, Jameson, a lot of exciting stuff here. Obviously a shutout on the defensive end, 73 points on the offensive end. It's a little hard to pick which side to go with, but I think we got to start with the offense here.
Okay.
Because there's a little bit more to talk about. I feel like the defense just kind of did their job, and we'll get to them for sure. But let's kick this off with Dylan Gabriel.
Oh wait, I want Ty to talk about this first. Is what I wanted.
I'm with you. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and go straight to DG. And I believe last week, Jameson, we kind of asked Ty, like, what do you want to see out of Dylan Gabriel that would make you feel a little bit better about the situation? 2 touchdowns, 308 yards, 19 for 22, through the air, and then at 97.1 QBR. Ty, were you pleased with DG last game?
Yeah, look, he was very good. Bobby, you had the perfect analogy. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Because again, this is a triage situation. Could our quarterback situation be better? Yes. Could it be worse? Yes. We could have Jaden Daniels on our team. So I think
new public enemy number 1.
Yeah, Dak could find eligibility and transfer to OU. There are worse things that could happen to us in the quarterback room. But no, he did excellent for this game. Any performance you can get super nitpicky, but I mean, you can't argue with the numbers. Yeah, there were a good bit of passes maybe that were more behind someone than they needed to be, and some things like that, especially on some of those incompletions. But I think overall, very, very good performance. And when it comes to the quarterbacks, we saw that Jackson Arnold is not ready yet. This is not a Caleb Williams backup situation or even a Kyler backup situation where your backup could realistically be competing. Like we saw, I think realistically from Jackson Arnold that he has a ton of talent. He's going to be an excellent quarterback one in years to come, but this is not the year for him to be taking over the reins. I don't think we're going to be screwed if he has to take over the reins in some situation, but I really think that we saw that Caleb Williams is a pretty firm QB1, or Caleb Williams is a pretty firm QB1 on his team. Dylan Gabriel is a pretty firm QB1 on this team.
I don't think, talking about talking about Jackson Arnold is not being ready is a knock on him. More so, it's just like a compliment to what we saw from Dylan Gabriel in this game. Like the things that we had knocks on him, it seems like he didn't deal with pressure that well and obviously didn't have much. And his deep field accuracy. And I feel like he was calm, cool, and collected, which was really struggling to do last year. And then his deep ball accuracy was great in this game. So his 2 biggest weaknesses, I think he overcame.
Yeah, Gabriel looked a lot sharper in his deficiencies that we saw last season, which, we obviously went back and forth on Gabriel a lot last year, but, he did have deficiencies. I think there were fair, complaints about, things that he could tighten up. And it looked like he tightened them up against, albeit a very lackluster Arkansas State defense. But from what we saw, he didn't look this good against UTEP last year, who also was garbage. So I will say, I think against Air, that would be an impressive performance. So I give it up to DG. I thought he played very, very well.
We do have to say on the quarterback notes, and again, Dylan Gabriel, excellent performance overall. Like I give it a 9 out of 10, but not only was this Arkansas State, this was Arkansas State's second string cornerbacks that we were playing. So there are levels to this in terms of looking at performance in the future, but it could not have been better than it was. I'll say that. I think realistically, you couldn't have expected more out of Dylan Gabriel in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I understand that he had a couple of maybe I think it was one underthrow and a deep ball, but still even versus bad cornerback play, deep ball accuracy is just kind of all in the quarterback's hands. So I understand really small sample size, but I'm excited for that. But I think every single podcast and every single OU fan is going to talk about this when we talk about the OU quarterback room. Jackson Arnold, you can see that the coaches are really showing their hand here that this rumor of he's going to have a part in this offense, not just in slot time. Is he going to be like Barry Trammell of Sellout just said? Is he going to be a belldozer? I don't think a belldozer is the right way to say it, but that QB power is obviously something that the coaching staff wanted to see more in this game, and that I think that we're going to see a lot from in Jackson Arnold throughout the season.
Yeah, and we definitely do need to talk about the birthday boy, the debutante, Jackson Arnold, 3 total touchdowns, 114 passing yards, 39 on the ground, and a 100% completion rate, 11 for 11. Really great start for him. And I disagree with the belldozer take from our guy Tram. I will say, if anything, weirdly enough, when I think of a player who we've kind of used in similar situations, it's kind of early season 2021 Caleb Williams. How Lincoln would kind of put him out for special situations, kind of as a running type of QB, but also with a passing threat. I think we could see Jackson Arnold coming out and playing in that manner. He is a player who has the talent, who has the skill. If you put him out there, that's great. I'm for it. If you're talented, let him run. I will say he does seem to know his place on the offense this year. He says, "This is not my time. It's Dylan's year. I'm here to learn. Just soak it up and be better for next year. Get ready for it." But if we see little Jackson Arnold cameos, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I was going to make a Jalen Hurts comparison, not this year, but I think there's potential to develop into not a 1-for-1, but sort of that style of quarterback as he continues to develop. I do want to say, and again, this is getting extremely, extremely nitpicky, but he did have one, I thought it was a fairly egregious incompletion that was on a free play, so it ended up coming back, but it was, we gave him a deep shot one time early on into him coming on the field, and that was a questionable throw, not under pressure and anything else. So that was kind of what I was reading.
Goody's free play that he got.
No, and we'll get into that. But that's what I was getting at. Because again, well, you look at these. Because I have a funny note on that, but we will get into these. That's what I was getting at. Is what I was saying when I said it seemed like he wasn't quite ready, and it did seem like there was a bit of a delay. He was just a slightly slower.
That's one thing, Ty.
No.
He went perfect from the field. Like I don't know what.
No, but I'm
from
saying
his on-the-field performance means that he's not ready. Maybe his comments off the field. Yeah, maybe like the situation he's in. But like, what from his play makes you say that he's not ready?
Well, that's what I was getting into, right? So there was that, but it seemed like everything was just slightly slower than Dylan Gabriel was doing it, and that's what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of a QB1. It's not about just throw power and accuracy. It's about running that offense. And it felt like to me, watching it on TV, he was just slightly slower in going through everything. And it did feel like he had a bit of a watered down playbook to begin with. Maybe that was game time as well to some extent, but it did seem like there were a little bit of training wheels on and there was just a little bit of a slower pace, which is good. That's, we want to ease him into the waters here. But it was not the same level of quarterback play, I would argue, that Dylan Gabriel was doing.
Well, of course. I think that's understood.
Yeah, and obviously his competition is going up against was weak. It was weak to the point that apparently he actually talked to Levy and told him to run some plays, like some running plays for him so he could get roughed up because he wasn't getting hit. And he wanted to kind of feel a little bit of like what it's like to play in a college football game.
Please.
I know. I just want to feel something. So I love it. But I will say a unit that has absolutely aided and helped this quarterbacking room. Really, really interesting performance from the wide receiver core. I got to say, we weren't sure what to expect going into it. A lot of guys caught a lot of passes, spread it out pretty equally. Saw really good games out of Nick Anderson, Andrew Anthony, Drake Stoops, Jaquez Petaway. And it's just really, to me, it was impressive at how they spread it out. The question is who's wide receiver one, who's going to step up. And it seemed to be a pretty, by committee situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had this conversation. I kind of talked about on my TikToks in the preseason, who's like the WR1. I think it's obvious who the WR1 is, and it's Drake Stoops. And I understand he went down with a shoulder injury, but that dude was going to, like he was saying on the sideline, he was going to go for 200 yards if he didn't get that injury. Like he wanted to go back in. And yeah, he's got an AC injury. If it's a grade 1, which it probably is, it'll be a kind of pain management thing to where they could hold him out next week or he could play through it. It's really kind of person by person situation. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he played. That's kind of just my opinion on that. But I think it's obviously Drake Stoops is the number one target for him. You could see it early in the game. Dylan Gabriel was feeding Drake over and over and over. So like whenever you get a full game from Dylan Gabriel and Drake Stoops, both 100% healthy, and they're playing the whole game, not versus Arkansas State, I think it'll be very clear that Drake Stoops, not this Jalil Farouk that we didn't really see too much of in this game, is WR1, and I don't even think it's a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And notably, this graphic down here, we weren't even able to include everyone that was getting multiple receptions. So it's our receiving room. I think what we saw in this one, and again, Arkansas State, will stop throwing that caveat on there, I suppose. But I liked what I saw in terms of spreading out to a lot of different people. It really felt like, again, not to reinforce old takes, but this game almost more of a practice situation, of an easing into the water situation. And we're not going out there necessarily even to prove or cement someone is 1, someone is 2, someone is 3. It really seemed like it was about going out there, just giving everyone a chance to get some looks in, so that when we develop and once we get into conference play and things that really, really matter, although losing to Arkansas State really would have mattered. But we really had that practice mentality, it seemed like, whether it was intentional or not. I believe it was pretty intentional. And I really liked what I saw from a lot of these receivers.
Yeah, and I feel like kind of feeding into that kind of practice mentality, it looked like overall things were pretty vanilla across the board, which is good. You don't want to tip your hand week 1 against Arkansas State, and if you can put up a great performance regardless, there you go. I like that we saw like a bunch of guys give a lot of different type of looks. I thought Andrell Anthony was absolutely electric in the moments we saw him. We anticipated him being like I believe the phrase that everybody uses, but it's correct. Take the top off type of wide receiver who can actually absolutely be a total burner. Look, he's wearing that number 5 well. Give me shades of Hollywood there a little bit. And then you have guys like Jaden Gibson, who that guy, big body receiver, had a lot of pretty solid plays. Very excited about him as well. And people in the comments already talking about how I left out our guy Gavin Freeman, G Freaky. We'll get to him in a moment. But I feel like, and Nick Anderson, of course, excellent game as well. I feel like a lot of guys did a lot of different things, and it seems like a very versatile, deep wide receiver room. I was very thrilled with it.
Yeah, I think really what it comes down to is whenever we get out of this kind of circumstance where we can rotate as many wide receivers as we want, what is going to be our, say, 4 deep at the outside room? Because we already know our 2 deep on the inside, and I'm sure Jaquez Petaway will also get some work kind of scattered in there as well. So I think it's obvious, Jalil Farouk still got so much talent that he's going to be on the outside, but the way Nick Anderson just looked, I understand, just 2 catches, but like that makes me think that he'll be right behind Jalil Farouk, and with Andrell Anthony on the other side, obviously at WR2. Like Nick Anderson is fast. He looks noticeably long. Like he looks the part to be a really good wide receiver. And I understand people are going to compare him, the 6'4" and the 6'5" between Jaden Gibson. Jaden Gibson, I have to give him huge props, making really hard catches, because his hands were the thing that's got in his head these past couple years, or this past year, so give it up for him. But, I'm really excited to see what Nick Anderson can do if he stays healthy throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, health with Anderson. That unfortunately is the case with him, as it was his brother a couple years ago. But, as we know with the Anderson brothers, if they're healthy, they're lethal.
Yeah, one more note on sort of receiving as we move into sort of everyone's getting upset we're not mentioning a certain receiver. 2 looks to tight ends. Cade McIntyre and then Blake Smith both got a reception each, both over 25 yards, 28 and 26, I believe. Blake Smith with a 28. I felt like there was something more there that we weren't tipping our hand to. I'm a big fan of the way that tight end play is going in college football, especially right now. I mean, they unfortunately, not for my take, but unfortunately for some, TCU losing this weekend to Colorado. But I felt like TCU's tight end was going to be dangerous. And I'm seeing that a lot in college football right now, those big tight ends that can really make a difference. I felt like, just reading into the tea leaves on some stat lines here, only 2 looks ever to a tight end in a passing situation, both 25-plus yard plays. Blake Smith lowered his shoulder, got some extra yards. But I feel like there could be some more stuff in the playbook, especially when it comes to receiving, like we've been alluding to, that we did not tip our hand in when we're blowing Arkansas State out 73-0, but might make the difference against a Texas or something like that. So I'm excited to see as this receiver room lumping the tight ends in continues to develop, because I feel like there's a lot more tricks up our sleeves in this room.
Yeah, I know that you've been really optimistic about this tight end room, but it just seems like I just don't share that. And I think this kind of just shows you more that maybe our receiving part of the tight end room just isn't quite it. Austin Stogner isn't really the guy that we've pegged him to be whenever he was an incoming true freshman, with the obviously wonderful wide receiver squad that he came in with with Spencer Rattler. I just Blake Smith, having the big play at tight end, he's going to be a blocking tight end, and he calls himself a blocking tight end. I just really think that the slot wide receiver is going to be kind of like our middle of the field tight end room set, and we're not going to get big tight end tight end receiving yard lines this season. I just really don't think so. I just don't think that's the case with this roster.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want Texas to think while they're watching tape as well.
Well, I mean, Austin Stogner is going to get touchdowns. Blake Smith's going to get some touchdowns. I just don't think that, what we know from OU's past, let's just talk recent. It's not going to be as good as Braden Willis, and Braden Willis is not like one of the best tight ends we've ever had, but, he's making an NFL roster right now. Our tight end room is not going to have 5-catch, 60-yard games. They're going to be 2-catch, 21 yards, and then touchdown every other game, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think the tight ends, it's if we have production out of them, from a receiving standpoint, it's like finding a couple fries at the bottom of the bag. You didn't think it would be there, but you're really happy it's there, and it kind of made your day. But overall, still,
and they're still good fries.
Out of a full meat. Great fries, arguably the best fries because they're unexpected.
Yeah, but like the quality of the fry itself, it's not like they're soggy bottom of the bag fries, and you're like, oh man, I'm hungry. I would like to have these fries, but I'm gonna eat them anyways. Like they're still the same fries, like they're still skilled, but it's just like they're not going to be a big part because they're not in the fry, and they might have been forgotten. Sometimes you might have thrown away your bag. People who do that are ridiculous, but you might have thrown away the bag and missed the fries.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When Blake Smith did catch that, though, I did yell club hand. I was pretty excited about that. Like, nobody in my section probably understood that reference, but I was like, I was very happy for Ty for his boy club hand, our guy getting a big catch there. So I was pretty pumped with that.
Yeah, to be clear, I wasn't saying we have Mark Andrews and Jermaine Gresham on this squad. I think that there's that ability to have that card up your sleeve. Like y'all said, probably not going to be a very regular thing. And maybe I am tweaking my take here a little bit because I've been roasted for it, but I think it's just a tool to have in there. And if you can be sneaky with it, right. It's the opposite of this silly like end around thing that we tried to run like 17 times this weekend for some reason, because it worked one time and it worked like one time last season. And for some reason, Venables is obsessed with this. Like everyone in the world knows if we're bringing a receiver in motion, it's going to be that weird end around thing, and it doesn't work.
That's fair. I'm not a fan of the end arounds. Always, I don't know. They give me the ick. But we talked about Ty's guys a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about someone who I thought did. We've been talking about this guy for years. Running back, actually, not Gavin Freeman. I meant to pivot to the running back room, and that is why you. That's why you label your graphics, folks.
There he goes.
Running backs. Marcus Major got the first snap, got the start for OU. Was not the leader in production, but there's the answer. I guess it's going to be Major, but also great performances from Javonte Barnes and Tawee Walker as well. So much like we kind of anticipated, running back room, a bit by committee here.
Yeah, was it really impressive, though, to be honest? Like, this was, I think, really bland. I got some people texting me right now wanting us to talk about French fries some more. I wish there was a little bit more salt on this running back room. But no, okay, enough with the French fries. Here's the thing. I don't know how much of it was the scheme of what we called and how the scheme that Arkansas State's defense was playing against us. I just didn't see a lot of, big gaps and, big plays. And I understand, Javonte Barnes, Tawee Walker, and Marcus Major are not those type of guys. We didn't see Gavin Sawchuk, who would be our big play running back. But I would at least hope to just see longer runs. I understand they got the nickel and dimes that gets you the first downs, but with a team like Arkansas State, like who's going to be that guy who's going to break open the defense and completely change the momentum of the game in the future for us at the running back position? And Marcus Major, we know what we're getting from him. Tolly Walker is a guy that's going to get a couple extra yards, but he's not the guy who's going to take a couple cuts and go 20 yards. I really hope it's Javonte Barnes, but it seems like he's still working a lot on his kind of processing and getting to the right gap.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jameson. I felt like maybe there was something to be desired from this running back room that we just didn't see. Maybe it was that big flashy play. I mean, we had big flashy offensive plays. We had a big flashy special teams play. Bobby tipped his hand as to, I guess, what we're about to talk about next. But yeah, I felt like this running back room, it almost seemed like it was, I think part of it was scheme. We weren't running with our running backs a lot of plays that were really designed to be big breakouts. But against an opponent like Arkansas State, especially with the number of carries that we had, you would expect that at least one of them is, a big 70-yard touchdown or something like that. Just didn't come up. So maybe some of that's chance. But I do feel like this running back room is an ongoing question mark. This is not to denigrate the hard work that all these guys put in this weekend. I mean, there's, again, not a whole lot to nitpick in this performance. But I think if you try to read into the tea leaves, it did feel like we, at some points, kind of struggled to establish a serious threat from the run. Like you pointed out, Jameson, we're able to nickel and dime, get those first downs in short yardage, and kind of power around. But again, how much is that the line, and how much is that your running back situations when you're not creating those big, deep, they could break away at any moment and get you running back situations?
Yeah, and I think if we wanted to talk about something on the offense that wasn't flashy, wasn't major, no pun intended, you're right. It is the running back room. It was very workmanlike, very solid. It wasn't flashy, wasn't anything to rave about. It was just standard meat and potatoes performance. I don't know how much we can really fault them for it. Offensively, obviously, it didn't hurt us. We scored 73 points. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for star performances, the running back room is not one to find it. But at the same time, I don't exactly feel like we saw anything bad out of any of these backs.
No. And that's what I kind of said at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
There's not too much bad to say. Obviously, there's some things I could really try to find. And I wish there was a bigger play. Hell, we still scored 73 points and they're, pushing it into the end zone. If our passing game can get there and they can slowly tick away, the defense and get us to the red zone and finish drives, that's all you can ask for. In the grand scheme of things, scoring slower is better than scoring faster. I mean, if you're obviously not down by 21 points, but if you're at the beginning of the game, you'd rather have a long drive. So having guys like this in this running back room is a positive. So obviously I'm trying to find some optimism here. But I think coming down to SMU, that's probably my biggest thing that I'm watching for. Obviously we do a preview of SMU, which will be very, very brief at the end of this podcast. But my biggest thing I'm looking for next week is which one of these running backs can stand out, because all three of those top three guys, none of them stood out from the pack for me. I think they're all equal.
I have a quick note. Number one, Marcus Major defender. Are we crediting him with a touchdown that he didn't have, according to this graphic?
Oh, maybe.
I got Marcus Major at 1 touchdown, Tolly at 2.
Ooh, yeah. No, I slipped. Yep. I'm still working on it.
Yeah,
folks.
It's Ty was trying to get on this.
No, I do want to say, though. I do want to say, because I want to wrap around and end on a positive on the running back room. The running back room, outside of 6 of our touchdowns on the ground, 4 of those coming from the running back room. Each quarterback had one. We touched on, each major quarterback had one. We touched on that. But 3 different running backs scoring touchdowns. I mean, that's, again, we can sit here and say, we didn't see a big thing. 3 different RBs scoring a touchdown is a good thing no matter who you're playing. And then accounting for, 4 of our touchdowns is also a very good thing. There's, again, not a whole lot you can fault. We are being a little nitpicky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The TDs, by the way, that's why you don't copy and paste, folks. That's how you make typos. But yeah, it's a little nitpicky, and I will say we don't need to do a full segment on the offensive line. Obviously, Arkansas State was overpowered there. That is something where the O-line should look good. So no kudos to them.
Can I just say one thing about the offensive line, though? I loved seeing Walter Rouse get out in space. That man just looked like an absolute beast. I mean, we were hearing it in the preseason. He's by far our best offensive lineman. Man, I am so glad that we were able to get him over Nebraska. Just imagine the scenario if we don't have him and we were starting Caden Green, a true freshman at left tackle. Obviously, he's still a very good talent, but Walter Rouse is going to put this team to the next level, that left tackle position. We are so thankful to have him. And honestly, man, it's just so fun to watch him play.
Yeah, Rouse is going to be a fan favorite, not just for his play, because he had that experience, that seasoned, he had that vibe to him that was great. But also he seems like a really likable guy. Just a couple hours ago, media availability ended with him, and he said that actually told the media, hey, you can talk to me anytime about either superheroes, Legos, and peach cobbler.
He's a big nerd.
He's a big nerd, and I love it. I love a big nerd. So good to see it. And again, he's a Stanford grad, so of course, yeah. Why wouldn't he be?
I think he's also pre-med as well. So like that shows like he's pretty smart.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, love to see it. But yeah, no, the O-line, I thought really good performance. Rouse, that guy's gonna be a star. I'm very, very excited to see him play more.
Game ball for offense.
Let's do game balls and because I feel like, look, everyone, we're leading you on. We're going to talk about G Freaky eventually. We're going to talk about Gavin Freeman, but let's be real. His big play happened on special teams, and we'll get to that in a moment. So let's go ahead and do game balls here, guys. And Ty, I'll let you kick this one off. Who's your game ball?
I think that's honestly I think that's actually extremely fair from Ty.
No, so short explanation. One, I think I would argue it goes to the receiving room as a whole. So I'm going to give it to RB1. First touchdown of the year, WR1. First touchdown of the year. Stoops is going to be that guy when he recovers, gets back into the game in full swing. I like Drake Stoops as WR1. I mean, he won the game for us. Like the game was over when he was out. So yeah, I'll give it to Drake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. But just to be a little bit different, I want to give the game ball not to someone who I think like had the best game, but the guy who showed me the most and like made me like really change my opinion a little bit on him. And I think it's Jaden Gibson for me, because I feel like my stock was really down on him. I was worried about him and his confidence, and having that kind of acrobatic tip ball catch in the corner of the end zone, having 2 big catches on the day, I think is so big for his confidence. Now, do I think he's going to get as much play time as we really would hope for as a fan base this season? No, but I think having a kind of game like that is so important that deserves my game ball.
Yeah, no, and I think to me, like, if we want to talk about a guy that I came away with like, oh, okay, let's go. This guy took a leap. Yeah, he's that. If I had to go with a game ball though, it's tricky. Is it too lame to go with Dylan Gabriel?
No,
because I think overall he had the most complete game. He looked, that was arguably one of the most complete games we've seen him play, just from a steady hand. He looked a lot better. And he just tied everything together. And in a game, like, he left no doubt to me that, like, in that game, okay, we're going to be okay. Things are going to be a little bit better. Obviously, let's see it against a much saltier SMU defense that, held Louisiana Tech to 0 points and shut them out in the first half on Saturday. But I don't know. I felt very good about DG after this game. So I'll give him my game ball, but I mean, plenty of worthy candidates, including Walter Rouse, who I thought was also great. Like they're just, you'd be hard to not find somebody, or you'd be hard to find somebody who wasn't worthy of that. Everyone I thought played really well.
Yeah.
All right, Jameson, what do we think? Defense next? Let's always end with the special team. So let's just move to the defense. And as you can tell, but if you're watching the graphic, just as defense, everybody was, I think, really, really good. There were moments, where, you had a couple blown coverages here and there, but let's be real. Let's get right down to it. Only 48 rushing yards. The Red Wolves had 0 appearances in the red zone. And while there was only one takeaway, the scheme felt like very, very vanilla, but it got the job done. What do you think?
Yeah, it was absolutely vanilla. That's the biggest takeaway. But there's some things that I liked whenever I was just looking at face value, not looking at box scores, because this box score from the defense isn't going to tell you anything. Yeah, you can talk about, Kenai Walker, got that fumble recovery, and that was a really good play, and obviously he had a great game. But things that I liked. One, Reggie Pearson's late hit, kind of liked it. Like, this is not your Buki of old late hits where you're like screaming at the TV and you're like, this guy is such a bonehead. I can't stand him. I don't know why, but like this Reggie Pearson late hit, I was like, good, do it. I like this. And then the next play, legitimately the next play, he comes up and gets a tackle for a loss in the running back. And I was like, oh my God, I just love this guy. And he, like, the late hit was like not even too boneheaded. He just kind of ran in and just gave him the shoulder. Good for Reggie Pearson. Loved that set of 2 plays. I was honestly just like about to jump out of like my seat. I was so excited.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to do basically the same bit that Jameson did on that sequence there. Jameson, it sounded like you might enjoy Prime Ball. You should get on the Colorado train. But yeah, no, the defense, when you have a shutout, no matter who you are playing, you really can't pick that apart. Like, this is, and to some extent, the offense putting up 73, but defensively, shutouts are a big deal no matter who you are playing, because there's always that garbage time. Like, they're very, I feel like they're even more rare now. I know there's statistics out there, but I feel like once we've moved away from the BCS computer, I know we've talked about this in our text, but there's not that incentive to run up the score as much on cupcakes with this new, selection program that goes into everything, because you have that subjective, like, oh, it was a week 1, whatever game. You don't have to play the computer algorithm where you have to smoke these teams like you used to have to do. And that's what we did. And defensively, I felt like we talked about in our pregame pod, we didn't want to see any silly mistakes. Are personal fouls necessarily that silly? I feel like the ones in this game weren't. I don't really know how to quantify that, but like Jameson said, we had some personal fouls in this one. I didn't really feel like they were that egregious. I felt like, it was kind of, the Arkansas State people were getting pretty chippy at one point. The players were. It's the first game of the season. You're feeling out. There's stuff that flies under certain officiating crews that doesn't. I really feel like there wasn't anything super, super egregious. Hitting someone out of bounds, whether it's bang, bang or not, you have to clean that up because that matters in bigger games. But yeah, I really liked what I saw from this defense. Y'all tossed around the word vanilla. I like that it was vanilla. I want a defense that just executes fundamentals.
Yeah, I think, to me, and I don't want to be the third person to talk about this late hit thing, but it embodied everything. But it embodied absolutely everything that I loved seeing from this defense. It was aggressive. It was hard hitting. It was decisive. It looked day and night from what we saw last year. And yeah, it was Arkansas State, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We've said that a billion times, but the mentality is so different. The physicality is different. And it was so exciting. Look, you can iron out, you can iron out those mistakes, through practice, through tape. You need live ball to really properly, iron out those kinks. But what you can't replace, what you can't bring, is that physicality, that energy, that passion that we have not seen in so long, because we've been dealing with people who have been, brutalized by Alex Grinch and Speed D, and, just, it's been bad. And seeing the new blood get in there, seeing new guys who just go for it, it was so encouraging to see. And I think, look, this is going to be a hard one to figure out a game ball for, because I think everyone, overall played just played their ass off.
Yeah, I had to think about it ahead of time to really make sure I had my game ball right on the defense. But I feel like if people are trying to find negatives of this, and once again, you look at the box score and you're like, let's just think of like, what is the negative of this defense as you're kind of contemplating on this Monday? And it's like, oh, I only see one sack and it was like near the end of the game. Like I really don't like that. Arkansas State did not give us any opportunity to get a pass rush. So if you're going to make an opinion on this pass rush, which obviously we have open scars because last season we did not have a good pass rush. And putting in R. Mason Thomas, a true freshman who was hobbled with a hamstring injury the whole year because out of desperation, we didn't have any kind of speed on the outside. That's not our same problem anymore. Like Trace Ford looked good whenever he had the opportunity to pass rush. Like he looked good. PJ Adebawore looked good. Like he looked like a different kind of guy. But you don't see that on the box score because Arkansas State just didn't drop back that much and actually like make a longer play in terms of passing the ball. It was very, one read, 3-step drops. SMU, that is not going to happen. So make your opinion of this pass rush after this SMU game.
Yeah, I mean, it was full pass pro, quick passes, exactly. Ty?
Here is something to potentially nitpick on the box score thing specifically. I think that's a perfect lead-in for this. Again, their pass plays, like Jameson just touched on, were not conducive to us really getting rushes and sacks. Both teams had 6 tackles for loss, which I think if you're really, really trying to nitpick something, could be a cause for concern. Obviously, we had 50 rush attempts, so 6 tackles for loss on 50 rush attempts, and then you also have to account for some of those, other stuff that goes into that. But I feel like maybe we should have had a little bit more than 6 tackles for loss just with the scheme that Arkansas State had. Was that our defensive scheme potentially? I think did play a part in that. And then you do have to remember that there were 6 points that maybe Arkansas State left on the table. They had a missed 43-yard field goal, a missed 44-yard field goal. So, I mean, those are not super chip shots, but that's usually a pretty high percentage that you make those at the college level. Obviously, Arkansas State did not. Arkansas State also had some silly penalties when they were on offense. So we could be realistically looking at this game as not necessarily a shutout. Well, that's such a silly thing to say. Some things could have gone another way. This could have been 73-6. Butterfly effect. Does it change our score? Does it not? But if you really, really dig into the weeds, you can find stuff. But again, I think you do have to account for our game plan defensively that we brought into this. We weren't really trying to blitz all the time and stop a ton of stuff. We were just trying to execute fundamentally, I felt like, game plan wise. So I don't like to dig into that stuff too deeply, like Jameson kind of touched on.
And it's weirdly enough more impressive that they just kind of straight up beat them. It's not like a big turnover fest. They just kind of lined up and stopped them. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't like this wild, speed D, 8 turnovers, blah, blah, blah. It was just straight up hard-nosed defense. And I think that's pretty impressive and fun. But
and to be fair, like you kind of touched on, this is a completely random, never even happens. But if your athletes are that much better, if you had an NFL team play a high school team, the NFL team could just put a couple linebackers on spy and then just run man coverage, and they would have a shutout, even with like 0 sacks and everything else. Because you're just sitting back there. No one can do anything against you if you just execute fundamentally. Is that what happened in this game? I'm not going to say, but.
Yeah. I mean, look, they were 2-12 on 3rd down. Arkansas State, not very good. Pretty dominant performance from OU, to say the least. Do we want to move to game balls? Just kind of pivot out of defense? Yeah. What do we think?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start on this one. My game ball is for a team that put up, only gave up 0 points. Only gave up 0 points. It's a weird way to say it. But whatever. They gave up 0 points. So obviously we didn't talk about, if you just look at the box score, I can't really find like a superstar stud of this. So give the game ball to the leader who led this defense, who's obviously the guy who gets people in the right position and is the vocal leader of this team. It's Danny Stutzman. Danny Stutzman played a sound game. He was in the right spot. I didn't see anything get blown from him, which seems like is a thing that he had done in the past. He led this team, so he deserves the game ball.
Yeah, it's lame, but I'm with you. That was a team performance, and You know what? I'm also going to give him the game ball for walking into the stadium wearing Brian Bosworth, style, not only style shades, but autographed Bosworth shades that said Brian Bosworth and then the Boz on one side, signed right on the glasses, which that is an awesome move. I respect it. And if you do something like that, you got to back it up. And even though, I'm going to say it again, even though it was Arkansas State, he did well.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I'll say the entire secondary, because I really liked what I saw. Again, Arkansas State continue to just smack that dead horse. But I liked what I was seeing from the entire secondary in terms of what I think we will see for the rest of the year. And that's the ultimate politician answer to that. But I had to change it up.
I like it. I appreciate you changing it up because I was pretty stuck with Stutzman. I thought he had it is hard to find someone who is absolutely crazy. But let's move on to special teams. And look, we're not here to talk about our guy Schmidt.
Josh Plaster won the job at punter. That's what we're all wanting to talk about.
1 punt, 50 yards. Shout out to Josh Plaster.
We weren't seeing Josh Plaster in the preseason though.
Yeah, no, it's anyways, there you go. You got your guy Josh Plaster. We're here to talk about G Freaky. Finally, Gavin Freeman against Arkansas State. Receiving wise, doesn't jump off the page. 4 receptions, 19 yards. One of them was for a touchdown. We're here to talk about the 82-yard punt return for a touchdown. Absolutely astonishing stuff. We've heard a lot about what Gavin Freeman, who we have just found out his nickname is G Freaky, which I love.
Marvin Mims said that obviously the freaky part is probably what you guys are insinuating on Twitter in his tweet. There's obviously something freaky that Gavin did and that the football team has been making fun of him for. And that makes this nickname even better.
Yeah, it's probably not football related, folks. I'm sorry to inform. I'm sorry to inform all you Sooner grandmas out there. It just not have to do with the football.
Sooner grandmas are all about that G Freaky. You know what that is.
Yeah, and just remember, right? Not to dive too deep down this rabbit hole, but Caleb Williams, we all know those allegations. Never had a nickname like that. So never even had a nickname like that. So what is Gavin Freeman up to? That is the big point. You don't want to answer that question mark. That's a door you do not open.
Well, I think we could say without a doubt, Gavin Freeman started this season off on the right foot. So, anyways,
we're just hitting them with
Caleb Williams loves that.
Yeah. Anyway, oh my, Trap House Booming in the comments is killing me. Referring to them as silvery, they're sultry silver suitors. I love it. Anyways, Jameson, we've been wondering who is going to be the punt returner, and we have our answer without a doubt. Yeah. It's Gavin Freeman. What a return!
He fits every single thing you want from a punt returner. He's electric and he's sure-handed. And it just, from what OU's done in the past, you put back your big-time playmakers in the punt. We'd seen Marvin Mims back there. Gavin Freeman is going to be so much fun to watch this year. Already a punt return touchdown. I guarantee you he's going to have another return touchdown this year. He's just too electric with the ball in his hands that he's going to make plays.
Yeah. I will say there is a punt returner, at least when I think about OU, has traditionally been a proving ground for a future WR1. I mean, Drake Stoops was at punt return. CeeDee Lamb was a punt returner for a little bit. To keep it recent, I'll stop the rabbit hole of analogies.
Wasn't Shep back there too?
Yep.
Probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably when he started
Saunders.
Out. So, I mean, yeah, and that's not necessarily unique to OU. I mean, a lot of schools do that because, again, like Jameson touched on, you want sure-handed and you want someone that has that speed and that agility to break out when things happen. But again, there is a third thing that you want from your punt returners, and Gavin Freeman has it. CeeDee Lamb stopped having it. Drake Stoops stopped having it. Jalen Saunders stopped having it. You do have to have your punt returner be someone that is more or less expendable to your game plan because it's just such a high risk of injury thing to happen. So Gavin Freeman perfectly fitting that role this season. Not that he is expendable. I think he's a very valuable, person on this offense, but I do not expect to see like Stoops back there returning a punt anytime soon, for example. I think Gavin Freeman, perfect special teams. I agree. I think he'll have another one this year.
Yeah, it'll be him and LV back there.
Yeah, and he has this craftiness where, you know, he sees the lanes. He has a vision that I loved. It was one of those where, I mean, we've all seen those type of returns. I feel like DeMarco Murray, we'll go way back, Jameson, your guy Reggie Smith.
Yep.
You know, where you're like, oh wait, is there something here? And then it goes from like, this is a good return to bang, he's taking this back. Freeman has that like kind of vibe to me, and I absolutely loved it. It was awesome and really set the tone for the game being like, oh, it's going to be this type of ball game, which I just absolutely loved it. Anyways, I think that's all we have to say about the game performance itself.
He gets the overall game ball for the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, that I think that's understood. Gavin Freeman, we can't really talk about offense and defense game ball for him, but for just overall, there's no conversation. He was the biggest piece of why we won this game and why Sooner fans are excited.
Yeah.
I think Gavin Freeman, a lot of people have been making he's the next Drake Stoops analogy. I think he's the next Joaquin Iglesias. Similar build, 6 foot, 210-ish. Definitely, I think he's
Gavin Freeman 6 foot.
No you know, he's easy 6 foot 210. Don't look it up.
5'8". You had me like thinking for a half second that Gavin
he's like 5'8", 160.
No chance.
Oh man,
Joaquin Iglesias though, his name came up when we were talking returns.
That's hilarious. So I will say, everything on field went great. However, we gotta talk about it because people have been complaining for years and years about the tailgating on Lindsay Street. They finally open it up, and what happens, guys? Nothing. One tent. What in the world happened?
I liked the interview from the people. They're like, yeah, I just kind of come over here, and I was like really surprised there was no one, and they're like completely just floored. But here's the deal: like, you're not completely surprised because I'm not surprised either.
No. Sorry, my dog started. Here's the thing, right? We entered a tailgating financial crisis. We're going to use an economic analogy here, right? We entered what they presumed was some sort of tailgating crisis. And OU's solution, instead of just trying to fix, I don't even think there were necessarily even issues with the tailgating. I know a lot of people are complaining about Lindsay, but instead of just fixing the core issues, they went with, let's just print more tailgating space. There aren't any more tailgaters. There maybe were even less tailgaters this year than some games. They made more space, and then all of a sudden it just kind of made every other, like, we just watered it down. We diluted it. If you're going to add the space, because there wasn't like a waiting list to get a tailgate put up, you know, like there was ample space already for the demand. We can't just create more space without, you know, adjusting the ratio somewhere else and expect everything to be completely full. I'm not surprised. I think it should be consolidated. Could be on Lindsay, could be somewhere else, but like you can't just continue to add spaces and then be shocked when they don't fill up.
Well, and I think the biggest problem with Lindsay is that space was always for the fraternities. It felt like the fraternities added a lot of energy and a lot of the boost of what that was, and they've all moved off and done their own thing. The oldest people, you know, there were not around for Lindsay Street tailgating, even if they went out there. So, you know, why would they care about that? I think that's a big part of it. No parking anymore. The parking lot has been replaced with a fake Hogwarts, as we all know. So really difficult there. They couldn't set up until 7 a.m., which is kind of wild for a 11 a.m. kickoff. It just didn't make sense. The policy needs to shift.
7 a.m. I didn't even know that detail. That's absolutely the reason for it. Like,
it's a big part of it.
It's not a us problem. It's an Oklahoma problem right now.
Yeah. Not only that, but like that wasn't the case for some spots. Like, you know, Brook Street, for example, was great. You know, it's fine. They had their own policy issues that I will do not need to be complained about because that would be old man yelling at cloud. They completely they've botched several tailgating things.
I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to continue to talk about it.
Look, I could go into the specifics, Jameson, specifically about. I'm not going to do it. You almost caught me there.
Damn it. That's exactly.
But it's a process. It's a process. They need to work on it. I've already written very strongly in my my game day experience flyer that they texted me. So the university knows. I wrote them 4 paragraphs of why we should be allowed to reserve space at 8 a.m. and not. Anyways, that's beside the point. Tailgating, figure it out.
I think
the 5 p.m. will be better, right? Like there's going to be an improvement.
Yeah, surely. Yeah, surely.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Anyone watching or listening, please feel free to let us know. We love nothing more than talking about what should and shouldn't be done for tailgating. So please, give us some new takes here. If you all have takes, let us know. Here's my one that I've never heard this one announced before. I think you solve Lindsay. You make it a super electric, super neat, super unique atmosphere by just having a mix of a lottery and then just a very high, purchase reserve a space. And you make it for just a handful of RVs. I'm just off the top of my head. I think you could fit a couple, but so think of the street, right? Back to back, just RVs down it, and then they build out their tailgates from there. I think it'd be super. You could fit probably 20, 30 RVs around there, make a cool little, mini RV atmosphere instead of down there.
We would be the laughing stock of college football.
No, because the RV people know how to tailgate. The RV
damn right they
know
do, but still, we get made fun of. Come to our tailgating scene. We're moving to
because we have RVs.
We're going to get our RVs. We're going to hook them up to the sewage lines, and it's going to be a good time.
There's RVs at every tailgate.
Some of the best tailgating spots have RVs.
But if it's not all like an RV, freaking line, you obviously need tents and it's just not people just hanging out.
No, you would have tents. That's what I'm saying. Imagine the RV tailgates. You go select the biggest ones. You say you can park your RV on Lindsay, and then you put up your tents and everything else under the trees and the grass.
I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Or they could demolish fake Hogwarts and put.
I'm not saying just make it an RV parking lot. Yeah.
Yes. Build back Adams Tower because it was a huge mistake tearing that down and tear down Hogwarts.
Dude, being back around there, it's so weird not seeing Adams. It doesn't even look like the same place anymore.
So sad.
It's one of those where it's weird not seeing Adams Tower, but when you look at Walker Adams Mall, that's the weirdest because it doesn't even look like the same place at all.
They have a new name for it.
It's just it's not even a mall anymore. It's just like a little sidewalk. It's a sad state of affairs.
Are the swings gone?
No swing. Swing's gone.
That hurts.
Swings are gone. Yep.
Where I almost said something, but I ain't going back to the old me. So let's move on.
And they built tornado shelters, which I think is
did
BS.
See that.
Which is
the buildings are already brick. They're going to
tear the other
tornado shelters.
Anyways, let's move
Next,
on.
they're going to make the kids only cross the crosswalks when the lights change instead of just darting in between traffic. Unbelievable.
Those lights Spencer Rattler almost got hit by a lime. Because
Spencer Rattler on a lime almost got killed by an F-150 one morning at 7:45. And it was just me, him, and the F-150 driver. And I'm not going to lie, I was not going to say that I saw shit had he gotten hit. Give me Caleb Williams.
Hold on. No, that's a rabbit hole we're not going down. Anyways, let's move on to what will surely be an in-depth preview of next week's game. The Oklahoma Sooners host the SMU Mustangs, both 1-0. This is honestly a rare occasion. OU and SMU have not played a lot of times. This is only the 7th time. In my column referred to as half-assed Winsipedia search, there have only been 2 really kind of notable games. The 1998 Bluebonnet Bowl, SMU barely beat us there. And we played them in 1985 in December for some reason, which was one of the last games before they got the death penalty. Last time out for SMU, they beat Louisiana Tech 38-14. That game was 31-0 at half, and that offense put up 311 yards just in the first half. So this future ACC SEC matchup poses to be a bit more of a difficult challenge for the Sooners than what we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, here's the thing with this SMU team, and a lot of people have been talking about them this offseason as one of the better group of 5 teams. Just look at their roster and see how many familiar names are on there as an OU fan base. And a lot of the times with these group of 5, maybe you might know 1 or 2 of these guys, but let me just tell you these names and let's see if you kind of remember them. Obviously, people will know Preston Stone was like a near 5-star quarterback commit going to SMU. That was a big time deal for them. But their running back, LJ Johnson, 128 yards and a touchdown, 9 yards per carry versus La Tech, was a guy that OU and Texas A&M was in that last group for. Jalen Knighton, the real rooster that used to be an Oklahoma commit. That is their backup running back. Another guy that OU fans remember, he was in our class. Their number 1 wide receiver, Jordan Hudson, former Oklahoma commit. There is some really good skill players on this SMU team that kind of have these OU roots and these national roots that makes this game really fun to watch.
In a way, it's a Savion Bird Bowl, I guess.
Oh yeah, and I forgot Savion Bird almost went to SMU just in honestly, it's worked out for him because he's starting early within this system, but this offense is a lot of fun for SMU.
Yeah, no doubt the Ponies are not one to be slept on. I do got to ask a question very specific to you, and you and I, what
this is very specific. I know what you're going to ask. It's very specific to Blake as well, and my answer will explain. Continue.
I'm interested to hear why you say that, but one of the first times we podcasted together, we talked about college football traditions and I believe mascots, and one of the mascots we had to bring up was Peruna, the small pony from SMU. Peruna. Should we be concerned if it comes to Norman? Because as we know, Peruna, this small pony, has killed before, and one can assume will kill again.
Oh no!
Yes, that is true. SMU's mascot has blood on its hands, its hooves.
Or
I think it was self-defense, right? And update on the Halloween monkey. Potentially later on this year. That's a deep reference. Was that not self-defense in that monkey's case? We will see. But yeah, Peruna, this is not the question I thought you were going to ask.
No, Jameson. He's talking about Pole Assassin. And
yeah, I know. I said, is there an update on that? I haven't heard anything for a while. One sec doesn't go into the weeds, and y'all talk about this. See if I can find anything about Pole
Jameson. We need a Pole Assassin update ASAP. So go into that while we talk about SMU. Anyways, Ty, what were you saying earlier?
Not the question I thought you were going to ask. So not applicable to Blake that I'm aware of, unless Blake is somehow involved in the Peruna situation. But no, I don't think so. I think Boomer and Sooner, right? The difference is Boomer and Sooner have never had to be in that situation. That's why they have. I think they're capable of it. I mean, certainly there was potentially an attempt a couple of years ago when Boomer and Sooner decided to just go a little fast on a corner. Was that someone whose name shall not be mentioned on the pod because we don't want to embarrass them? Was that their fault? I don't know. But yeah, Peruna, dangerous mascot, has to be watched out for. This is not a Georgia Bulldog situation. This isn't the King of England where it's just a figurehead like Bevo, with no real power. Peruna has power. He's a brutal dictator. He has killed before, and his empire may be small, but they have a fair amount of money behind them, and he is dangerous.
I think that is fair.
I can't find anything on Pole Assassin, by the way. It looks like the most recent article that was written on it was seems like they're still together, Jeff Banks and Pole Assassin. So long live them and continue on this season. I have nothing else to say. We will wait for if there's any kind of. I feel like there's no court ruling at this point. I think obviously it's gotten thrown out. So
I think Texas threw the bag out at attorneys potentially.
They made it go away.
Monkey just used some of its leftover bucks that it had. It's a rainy day.
But
it was employed.
Sometimes, again, we're missing our resident legal expert, but as far as I'm aware, sometimes if just the investigation proves that it's self-defense, it doesn't go to trial. So,
okay, we need to move on. Let's get back to SMU. Obviously, a lot of times of our previews of these games, whenever it comes down to like non-con, will be not as much of who we're looking for from SMU and what we're expecting there. It's more so like what we're looking for as Oklahoma. Like, what am I looking for and from this team this game? And I think the two biggest things I already talked about early in this podcast, so I'll just rehash it. I think I want to see a pass rush. Can we get pressure on the quarterback? Can we get sacks? And then on the offensive side, can we see one RB, go ahead and be the RB1 in terms of snaps and big plays?
Yeah. I think that clarity is absolutely the prime question for OU for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I see this one, again, not to sleep on SMU, but this is naturally an extension of the previous game. We're going to dial up the difficulty just a little bit. We're going to present a little bit of a different threat to this OU team when it comes to the opposing profile that we're going to be facing. But ultimately, this is a game that we should win. We should win by early in the second quarter. I think the game should be all but a formality.
What is it, 17 points the spread right now?
It opened at 17. So that's what we'll call for it right now. On our pick show later, the weekend spread on Wednesday, we'll have an updated line for that. But right now opened at OU minus 17.
Yeah. But to Jameson's point, I would like to see a more firm RB1 start to get established in this one. I think if we see the same thing out of the quarterback and receiver room that we saw this past week, I will be very happy. I just want to continue to see that same thing, I think. I want to see minimal play time from people where there's an injury risk. And I would like to see maybe not an entire half. Well, we didn't play an entire half, but at least an entire quarter from Jackson Arnold. Again, just looking at this as a practice situation, we're going to continue to just slowly dial up that difficulty on this team, ease into the water, and really start to ramp up this, hopefully, empire that we're building under Brent Venables at OU.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think what we need to see is, you brought it against Arkansas State. Can you bring it against a better opponent? I think the answer is yes. You want to see that stability, that obviously that physicality shine through, but also, that buttoned up lack of mistakes play style that we saw defensively. I mean, primarily that's what I'm looking at more than anything. And not to sleep on, the Mustang defense. They obviously showed out in that first half against La Tech, but Louisiana Tech's offense, Louisiana Tech's offense is bad, but SMU's offense is really, really good. And I think that'll be a bit of a stress test, not proper, this is not going to be the toughest team we're going to play all year. They're not Quinn Ewers. They're not Texas. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be like...
Is Texas the toughest team we're going to play this year?
Yes.
I don't know.
Literally, the only team that could be tougher would be K-State.
I didn't know that Rice. I didn't know that Rice was that good.
Why does Rice play Texas?
Because they had a shot this year. Because they had a shot to win this year. That's why.
Yeah, well, that's true. They try to get to the moon, man. But anyways,
JT Daniels and his dirty mustache had no chance. That guy looked horrible. But let me say one thing more about this game and expectations. And I know people have been asking kind of like for an injury update, so I'll just kind of like make like an injury kind of like to this last game and what we're foreseeing for this SMU game. Drake Stoops probably give him about a 50-50 shot to play. AC injury going to be pain, driven. If it's more than a grade 1, it's going to be a more serious injury. But if he truly was trying to get back into the game after his injury, I bet you he is able to play SMU. Let's just see if the injury, the medical staff wants him to play, as if it's truly worth it. But with Dasan McCullough, his injury is probably a high ankle sprain from what the mechanism looks like. And that's a 4 to 6 week injury. And that's like something you don't screw around with. These high ankles, you don't come back quickly. This is not your traditional, I rolled my ankle. Like your high ankle is like up like on your shin. So these are not things you can really play through. And I think that makes it where can we see some different kind of play at the cheetah position? I wanted to see more Peyton Bowen there, and we didn't get to see a lot of it. But maybe we might see it this game. There will be snaps to be had at the cheetah behind Harrington. Let's see who can go out and take those snaps.
Yeah. I do want to say, for those watching on YouTube, we always encourage people to watch on YouTube. When Jameson was talking about the high ankle sprain and ankle sprains, we wanted to show a graphic, but every ankle graphic we could find included feet. Caleb Williams would have been too expensive, so we had to skip on that.
We are not in the business of giving out free feet. So,
but if we got another viewer, I'm just fine with that.
That's on our streaming service.
One more view.
Schooner Pod Plus is the exact same as you have right now for an extra $5.99. But
these damn Patreons.
But you get to see our feet. You get the full body experience.
No.
Just Bobby's.
I just envisioned Bobby's feet. All right.
Oh yeah, not good. I wear open toe shoes far too often.
Wait,
Nobody needs to see that. No. Anyways. Shout out to 1982 for shout out to 1980. No. Why did I give y'all the ability to edit? Like
I was trying to make it go away.
Shout out to 1982 Boomer Sooner for bringing up that the team captains have been released for this week. Doug Gabriel, Walter Rouse, Andrew Ray, Woody Washington, and Jonah Lualu. So pretty good. This is how I win.
I'm not doing it. Hands are up here.
Oy.
This is why y'all gotta watch on YouTube. Go subscribe if you're not already and you're just listening to us on podcasts, because it just makes things so much more fun. Ty's got his hands up. He's refusing to not add anything to our graphics right now. And Bobby's been putting in some absolute work into our layouts, into our intro. So honestly, go check that out.
Ty.
He's using his feet to click things. It's why he's showing.
All right. Oh no.
Okay,
right,
so
we got to get out of here.
I'll turn it back to the series real quick. A quick summation of what I'm expecting from SMU. Again, 0 pre-snap penalties. I know they're going to happen this year. My memory might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we had 0 last week. That was an expectation. They're going to happen in games when things are loud, when things are whatever. We should not have them at home against SMU. Hopefully we tone back the sort of the personal foul penalties, because again, that stuff, whether it's excusable or coincidental or not, can't happen in big games. I think a shutout is possible. I don't think it'll happen this week because, again, slightly higher caliber of opponent. And I don't expect us to just stay on the gas defensively. We could make a shutout happen. I think realistically, we're not going to keep the first team and throw out the playbook defensively in against SMU, hopefully, to make that happen.
So way too talented. They're going to put up 20 plus.
Okay. All right. Again, we'll get into it on the weekend spread. Bobby and Jameson did not believe in this OU team this week.
I didn't.
Blake and I were the only ones.
I didn't believe in the depth, but the depth was kind of there.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, in short, no pre-snap penalties, no silly mistakes. I'm not expecting a shutout, but just continued simple execution, and we'll win by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not a shutout for OU here. That's I think a little unrealistic. If it is a shutout, then yeah, you can be excited about this OU team. Like, crank those expectations up, get that hopium flowing. But this game, OU's defense will be tested. It'll be a little bit trickier, but you know, I think they'll get the job done. I love the cover right now, just kind of early. We'll get to that on the weekend spread whenever we get to it. But no, I think this will be a fun test, a good test. It shouldn't be in question. It shouldn't be in danger. If it is in danger, I think you panic a little bit. But I think you'll see a little bit more push and pull than you did last week, and definitely more than you will next week against Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Take the over.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, too. So make sure to get ESPN Plus for that one. That should be a good time, to say the least. And get out to the Palace. Stripe the stadium. It should be fun. odd sections white, even sections crimson. So excited for that to return. Anyways, that's all we have for today. Thank y'all so much for listening live on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, thank you for listening as well. Hope we made your return back from the long weekend a little less crappy. So,
hey, wait, hold on. We'll normally be on Sundays. Just as a programming note, we did this on Monday because I know everyone wanted to watch that LSU Florida State game. We will be recording Sunday evenings at 7:30 Central every single week. We will be consistent. If you like watching this on YouTube, that is when we will be on. So be ready then and there. And then on Wednesdays at 7:30 Central for the weekend spread, where we talk about college football's best picks of the week.
Yeah. And we got some good ones this week. It's a very Big 12 heavy week that I'm super pumped to talk about, to say the least. I don't think we did very good. We didn't do very good again, but
I'm atrocious.
But it's been more entertaining. It's entertaining, to say the least. So make sure to tune in 7:30 for the weekend spread. And again, these will be on Sundays. Let's be real though. The Labor Day Monday is a Sunday. It's an honorary Sunday anyways. So it still counts. It's still consistent. But yeah. Well, for me, Jameson and Ty, this has been the Schooner Pod. Thank y'all so much for listening to us. Make sure to, again, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. We would love to see that. Just keep running this thing up. Would love to see that. And if you're listening on your podcasting app, make sure to give us a good review. Love to see that as well. Helps us grow, helps us produce more content, better content. And yeah, we all deeply appreciate it. And thank you all for, supporting us and all of the kudos for us after we joined Sellout Crowd. A lot of cool stuff coming there. And make sure go to selloutcrowd.com. Check them out. So much good content. I mean, they've just been pumping it out. Barry Trammell, Eli Letterman.
What an opening weekend for them. It was stellar.
Yeah, it's been really you're just swimming in the content. It's beautiful. So definitely hit up Sellout Crowd. It's free. No paywall. Just dive right in. Go right for it. Got to give it a shot. It's just truly wonderful. So, yeah. This has been the longest. Yeah, Jenny Carlson, of course. How could I forget her? She's wonderful. Garrett, I can never pronounce that guy's name. Anyways, let's end the podcast.
Gary Patterson.
Yeah, Bob Stoops making appearances with
Gary Patterson.
I know.
And then us doing college football.
You're damn right.
Which of these ones is not like the other, man?
The fish are different sizes, but we're in the same pond, baby.
Hey,
kinda.
We're like SMU in the ACC.
Yeah. Oh my god!
Bobby will say about SMU. Yes to anything.
We're like TCU in the Big 12. We shouldn't be
man.
here, but we are.
That's good. Anyways, y'all, that's all we got for today. Have a great week, everyone, and we will see you on Wednesday for the weekend spread. Beat SMU. Boomer Sooner, everyone.